We were just talking about what makes for a truly compelling travel destination, the kind of place that stays with you long after you've come home. And Sicily just kept coming up. You had mentioned wanting to explore some places with really unique history. And from what we've seen so far, Sicily is practically overflowing with it.
Oh, absolutely. You said over some really fascinating stuff. We've got a briefing note that lays out like 8 different compelling reasons to visit, and then this really vivid travel blog that goes into detail about a 7-day guided tour experience. So I think we've got plenty here to really get a feel for what makes this island so beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the mission for this deep dive is to really try to distill the essence of Sicily for you. We want to go beyond just the surface level stuff and really uncover what makes it so captivating in terms of its history, its culture, and all those must-see attractions. Think of this as like your shortcut to getting a real sense of Sicily, whether you're actively planning a trip or just kind of indulging your curiosity about this really remarkable place. Okay, so the briefing note kicks things off by saying that Sicily is only now truly being recognized as this magical destination. What struck you about that?
Well, it almost implies that it's been overlooked, right? Kind of overshadowed by those more traditionally famous Italian cities. Like, it's been quietly developing its own unique character, and now the world is finally catching on. The briefing note highlights Palermo, the capital, and Taormina as kind of key examples of that.
And it doesn't stop there, right? It kind of quickly moves beyond those initial hotspots to really emphasize the sheer variety that Sicily offers. Like you've got the picturesque coastlines, historic towns, and just a wealth of things to see and do. It sounds like you could spend weeks there and still only scratch the surface.
Absolutely. And it's not just the culture and the history. It's the geography itself. You've got beaches, yeah, but then you also have mountains. You've got an active volcano in Mount Etna. You can even go snow skiing in the winter months. That kind of variation on one island is pretty remarkable.
It's really like a place that has something for everyone. All right, so let's dig into that history because both the briefing note and the travel blog really emphasize how pivotal Sicily's location in the Mediterranean has been.
Yeah, that location is everything. It's been a true crossroads for millennia. You think about all the different groups who have called Sicily home, the indigenous Sicanians, the Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Normans, Spanish, and so many others.
It's like this constant point of contact and exchange. And speaking of some of those early influences, there's an interesting detail in the blog that challenges a common perception about the island.
Oh, what's that?
Well, the idea that Sicily is quite arid, lacking in water. But the blog points out that during the Arab period, they brought significant advancements in water management to the island. So it wasn't just all conquest and destruction. There were some really positive, lasting impacts, too.
That's a really important point. It actually says that Sicily was lucky with its historical invaders, noting that they were in the main non-destructive and often contributed to improvements in infrastructure and culture. It makes you think about history in a new light, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that Arab influence on water resources clearly had a lasting legacy. The blog mentions that Sicily now has a network of 42 man-made reservoirs, and a lot of individual farms have their own water storage ponds. And of course, you have the Norman presence until the 19th century, and Giuseppe Garibaldi in the 19th century, who liberated Sicily from the Bourbon rule and paved the way for unification with Italy. It's just layer upon layer of history.
And of course, thinking about more recent history, we can't forget World War II. The blog mentions Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Sicily in 1943. And it really emphasizes that this started the end of the war and the defeat of the Germans. So again, Sicily, right at the center of things, even in the 20th century.
Totally. Okay, let's move on to something that's such a powerful visual representation of Sicilian identity. Both our sources mention the Trinacria symbol. What stands out to you about it?
Well, the visual itself is so unique, right? This three-legged figure with a Medusa's head at the center on yellow and red flag. It's definitely something you don't forget.
Definitely not. And the symbolism is so interesting. The three legs represent the three capes or corners of the island. And also, there's a legend about three nymphs who are believed to have created Sicily. And the blog mentions that you see this symbol everywhere in Sicily. It's more than just a flag, it's a constant reminder of their identity.
Speaking of identity and what makes a place truly memorable, let's talk about the food. Both of your sources are just full of praise for Sicilian cuisine. What were your initial thoughts?
Oh, the food. The briefing note highlights that Sicilian food is like its own distinct branch of Italian cuisine, shaped by its location and that incredible history we were talking about. You see that in things like the presence of couscous on menus. It's like not just Italian food, it's Sicilian Italian food.
And the local seasonal ingredients are key. With all that coastline, it's no surprise that seafood is a big deal. The briefing note mentions sardines, and pasta con le sarde, this dish with fennel, pine nuts, raisins.
And then you've got those other quintessentially Sicilian dishes like pasta alla norma with that rich tomato sauce, fried eggplant, and ricotta. Arancini, those crispy rice balls with all sorts of fillings. Oh, and caponata, that sweet and sour eggplant stew. My stomach is starting to rumble.
Mine too. And we can't forget about the desserts. Both the briefing note and the blog seem to agree that Sicilians have really mastered the art of the cannoli.
Absolutely. Those crispy shells filled with sweet ricotta cream. There's nothing like it. And then there's granita, that refreshing, semi-frozen dessert that comes in all sorts of flavors. Perfect for a hot day. And cassata. Have you ever seen those? They're like these really ornate sponge cakes with ricotta and candied fruit.
They're almost too pretty to eat. Almost. And then there's the use of almonds, pistachios, citrus in so many of their sweets, from gelato to biscotti. It really showcases the local ingredients. And brioche con gelato for breakfast. That's so uniquely Sicilian.
Okay, moving from food to something that offers another tangible link to Sicily's past, the incredible archaeological sites. The briefing note makes it clear that Sicily is just full of these really well-preserved Greek and Roman ruins. What were some of the standouts for you?
Well, Agrigento's Valley of the Temples is a must-see. The Temple of Concordia there is just incredibly well preserved. Then you have Siracusa, which was once a leading city of the ancient Greek world. And their 5th century BC Greek theater is still used for performances today. That's just mind-blowing. They also have a Roman amphitheater there and the remains of the Temple of Apollo.
And Taormina's Teatro Greco, which was built by the Greeks and then later enlarged by the Romans, is another one. Can you imagine watching a performance there with the backdrop of the Ionian Sea and Mount Etna in the distance?
The setting must be incredible. And the briefing note also mentions Segesta with its Doric temple and theater and the ruins of Solente. And of course, we have to talk about the Via Romana da Casale.
The Villa Romana. The blog goes into such detail about this 4th century AD Roman villa, and the highlight is the 3,500 square meters of mosaics depicting scenes from mythology, everyday life. It's like this incredible snapshot of Roman life.
It really is. They even highlight a mosaic that seems to show women wearing bikinis.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder where certain fashion trends really began. It's those little details that make history come alive.
Okay, so after all that history and culture, you're probably ready for some relaxation on a beautiful beach. And with the Tyrrhenian, Ionian, and Mediterranean seas all around, Sicily has a lot to offer.
Yes, a lot of variety too. Near Taormina, you have Isola Bella and Mazzaro, although the blog does say that Mazzaro has pebbly beaches, so pack your beach shoes.
Good tip. And Giardini Naxos has both lidos and public beach areas. Palermo also has some lovely sandy beaches like Mondello and Maggiore. And Cefalù is described as a charming former fishing village with beaches, cafes, and even some nightlife.
And if you're in the southeast, near Ragusa, you've got Fontane Bianche, San Lorenzo, Marina di Ragusa. Lots of options. And the blog also points out something interesting about the eastern coastline around Mount Etna.
What's that?
It says that in some places, the volcanic lava actually meets the sea, creating these really unique beaches. Must be pretty dramatic to see those black volcanic rocks against the blue water.
Now let's talk about another of Sicily's attractions, the wines. The briefing note mentions that Sicily has a really long history of winemaking, going back to the ancient Greeks.
Yeah, Marsala in western Sicily is famous for its fortified wines, but the wines coming from the Mount Etna region are getting a lot of attention these days. Something special about wine produced in the shadow of a volcano.
It's all about that volcanic soil combined with the Mediterranean climate. The briefing note highlights Caricante, a white wine, and Etna Rosso, a red made with the Nerello Mascalese grape.
And you can't forget Nero d'Avola, which makes those really rich, robust reds. They also mention Edna Bianto, Catarratto, and Grillo, a dry white that's great with seafood. It's like a wine lover's paradise.
Okay, beyond the food and the scenery, Sicily has a really rich culture with some fascinating traditions. The briefing note mentions those colorful horse-drawn carts, the Carretti Siciliani. What's the story there?
Well, they're more than just carts. They're like works of art. Decorated with religious scenes, historical events, all sorts of intricate designs. And the horses would be all decked out, too, with ribbons and bells. It was a real spectacle.
The briefing note says you mostly see them at festivals now or as miniature souvenirs, and Sicily seems to have a ton of festivals throughout the year, a lot of them with religious origins.
Yeah, they mentioned the Almond Blossom Festival in Agrigento, which celebrates spring. There's a Ricotta Cheese Festival in Vizine. The Feast of Santa Rosalia in Palermo sounds huge. And the Easter processions. It's clear that traditions are still a big deal in Sicily.
The blog talks about how in Sicily it can feel like you're stepping back in time, and there's a strong sense of Sicilian identity. People will say, I'm Sicilian, not I'm Italian.
Now, if you want to explore beyond the main island, Sicily has all these amazing surrounding islands. Did you get a chance to look into those?
Oh, yeah. The briefing note mentions a few. You've got the Pelagie Islands to the southwest. Lampedusa sounds particularly beautiful with those white sand beaches and crystal clear water.
Then off the west coast are the Agadi Islands, which are easy to get to from Trapani. Pavignana is the largest and has some more luxury hotels and great diving.
And the Aeolian Islands, those volcanic islands to the north. Lipari is the biggest one with hot springs and interesting architecture. Panarea is smaller but very popular. And Stromboli, with its active volcano, you can actually hike up there with a guide. And then there's Salina, known for its capers, and Pantelleria, a UNESCO World Heritage Site with all sorts of volcanic features.
Adds a whole other dimension to a trip. Now, let's not forget the cathedrals and architecture.
Yes, the Cathedral of Monreale, just outside Palermo, is supposed to be amazing. It's from the Norman period and known for its mosaics, its marble floors, the cloisters. One of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world, some say.
And the Cathedral of Syracuse was built on the site of a Greek temple, and you can still see the original Greek columns. That connection to the ancient world is so cool. The Cathedral of Cefalù, the Cathedral of Catania, it seems like every city has one.
And of course, we can't forget the Via Romana del Casale, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of those incredible mosaics.
So once you've decided to go, where do you stay? Sicily has a huge range of accommodations.
Yeah, from five-star resorts and private villas to beach hotels and those farmhouses, the agriturismo, where you can really get a taste of rural life. The briefing note even names a few places like the Verdura Resort and the Thracia Resort on Volcano in the Aeolian Islands.
And then you've got the more classic, elegant places like the Bellman Grand Hotel Timeo in Taormina, Villa Carlotta, San Domenico Palace. Also in Taormina, the Monaci delle Ternere near Mount Etna. And in Palermo, the Grand Hotel Wagner.
So much variety, and that agriturismo option sounds really cool, especially if you want to experience a different side of Sicily, whether it's the coast, the mountains, or the wine country.
So how do you actually get to Sicily? Both sources have some good info on transportation.
Well, Palermo and Catania both have international airports, and if you're coming from mainland Italy, the Eurostar train actually takes you on a ferry across the Strait of Messina.
And there are ships from Naples, Genoa, Livorno, Civitavecchia, all going to different ports in Sicily. You could even drive down and take the ferry across.
Before we wrap up, the travel blog has a really great section on local insights and practical tips.
The kind of stuff that can make a real difference. It mentions the friendliness of the people, but also warns you about the drivers. So be careful crossing the street.
And, of course, stay hydrated, especially if you're doing a lot of walking and exploring. It also talks about the great irrigation systems and fertile soil, which explains why the produce is so good.
Oh, and they say you should order the Vino della Casa, the house wine. It's usually really good and comes in a big carafe.
And be prepared for dinner to be a later affair between 8 and 11 p.m. They mention that tipping isn't a big thing. There's usually a service charge already included, and booking your tickets for attractions online can save you time and money.
They also recommend carrying some cash, especially for smaller places. And of course, you have to eat gelato. It's everywhere, and it's amazing.
They say it's a good idea to learn some basic Italian phrases, and instead of cafes, you have bars in Sicily, and you need to be specific about how you like your coffee.
Another interesting thing, milk is mostly consumed at breakfast.
Oh, and about restrooms, they say it's a good idea to carry tissues or wipes, and you'll usually have to pay a small fee to use them.
Pack comfortable shoes, sun protection like a gooding, and remember to dress modestly when visiting churches. Oh, and trains can be a bit slow and crowded, just a heads up.
Make sure you have mosquito repellent. And one thing to be aware of is that in a lot of places, you don't flush toilet paper, you put it in a bin.
The food quality is supposed to be really high everywhere, which is nice. But watch out for pickpockets, especially in crowded areas.
And if you're driving in the mountains from November to April, you might need tire chains.
Did you see the bit about Stromboli being called the Mediterranean lighthouse because of its constant volcanic activity?
Yeah, and apparently Sicily doesn't really have a spring or autumn. It goes straight from summer to winter and vice versa. It's also a pretty hilly, mountainous island.
They have those pylon-supported roads in the valleys, which is interesting, and it's a large and densely populated island. But the government is trying to encourage people to move to the countryside with grants.
Palermo has some issues with a rubbish collection, but it's got a really vibrant nightlife and great street food. Catania is more of an industrial city, but has some Roman remains. And it's becoming a tech hub, even has Europe's largest solar panel factory.
Siracusa, of course, is famous for its Greek and Roman history, the Temple of Apollo, Ortygia Island.
Taormina is all about the beauty and that ancient Greek theater with amazing views.
And Mount Etna is just spectacular. They have cable cars and jeep tours that take you up to viewpoints, but you can't get too close to the lava flows, obviously.
They call it the Garden of Sicily because the soil is so fertile.
All that fertile volcanic soil produces some really amazing things like organic duran wheat, perfect for pasta.
So it seems like Sicily is a place where you can really experience the ancient world alongside modern life. It's that blend of history, culture, nature, and of course, incredible food that makes it so unique.
Yeah, this deep dive has really shown us just how much Sicily has to offer.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. What do you think is the biggest draw of Sicily? Is it that tangible connection to ancient civilizations, the fusion of cultures, or maybe the dramatic landscapes? It's definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us.